History books tell us about kings and queens, about wars and inventions, and the men who supposedly shaped the world. But history has a shadow side, a side that doesn't make the textbooks, one that gets buried, ignored, or quietly explained. What about the mysteries that were never solved? The people who vanished without a trace? The crimes that no one was ever punished for? The events so strange, so deeply unsettling, that even now, hundreds of years later, we still don't have answers. Today, we're going to those places, the dark corners of history that most people don't want to look at too closely. Because once you start pulling at these threads, you realize just how much we don't know, and how much we may never know. 3 stories, 3 mysteries, each one stranger and more disturbing than the last. So if you're ready, let's begin. It's 1587. A group of 115 English men, women, and children set foot on Roanoke Island off the coast of what is now North Carolina. They are among the first English settlers ever to attempt a permanent home in the New World. They're pioneers, they're brave, and within 3 years, every single one of them will be gone. The colony's governor, John White, sailed back to England that same year to gather more supplies. He didn't want to go. But he went. And when he finally returned to Roanoke in 1590, 3 years later, he found the settlement completely abandoned. No people, no bodies, no sign of a struggle. The houses had been methodically dismantled. The only clue left behind was a single word carved into a wooden post. Croatoan. Pause. That's it. That's all they left. One word. No explanation, no message, no goodbye. Over 100 people, men, women, children, including White's own granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child ever born in America, had simply ceased to exist. Historians have been arguing about this ever since. Some believe the colonists integrated peacefully with the local Croatoan people, a native tribe from a nearby island. Others think disease wiped them out. Some point to a violent conflict, though the lack of any bodies or wreckage makes that hard to support. And then there are the darker theories. Theories about what that word really meant and whether anyone was left alive long enough to carve it. 430 years later, we still don't know. The lost colony of Roanoke remains exactly that lost. London, 1888. The Whitechapel district is one of the most overcrowded, poverty-stricken corners of the city. People are packed into crumbling tenements. The streets smell of coal smoke and river water. It is a place where, if something terrible happened to you, there was a real chance no one would notice. And in the autumn of that year, something terrible began happening. Between August and November of 1888, at least 5 women were murdered in the Whitechapel streets. Their names were Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. They were working women, most of them living on almost nothing, and they were killed with a calculated surgical brutality that shocked even the hardened investigators of the time. The killer sent letters to the police, taunting them, mocking them, signing off with a name that would echo through history, Jack the Ripper. Whether he actually wrote those letters or whether they were fakes sent by journalists looking to sell papers is itself still debated. But the name stuck, and the fear it created was real. Police investigated over 300 suspects. Over a century of amateur sleuths, forensic experts, and true crime writers have added dozens more. A royal physician, a Polish immigrant, a local barrister, a painter, a cotton merchant. Every few years, someone announces they've finally solved it. They haven't. The Ripper was never identified, never tried, never punished. He simply stopped and disappeared back into the fog of Victorian London like he was never there. At all. February 1959. A group of 9 experienced hikers, students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, set off into the remote Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union. Their leader was a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. These were not beginners. They had done this before. They were prepared, skilled, and traveling together. None of them came back. When a search party finally found their camp in early February, what they discovered made no sense at all. The tent had been slashed open from the inside. The hikers' belongings were still there. Food, warm clothing, boots, everything they needed to survive. But the hikers themselves had fled into the darkness, many of them barefoot, in temperatures of minus 30 degrees Celsius. The bodies were found scattered across the snow, some over a mile from the tent. Some had died of hypothermia, but others, and this is where it gets deeply, deeply strange, had injuries that hypothermia alone cannot explain. Crushed ribs, a fractured skull, internal damage that a Soviet forensic expert compared to the force of a car crash. And one of the hikers, a woman named Lyudmila Dubinina, was found missing her tongue. Beat Soviet investigators closed the case and classified the findings. Their official explanation: the hikers died as a result of an unknown compelling force. That was it. That was the answer. The theories since then have ranged from avalanche to military weapons testing, from infrasound-induced panic to, and people do say this, something not entirely of this world. The Russian government reopened the investigation in 2019, and after 2 years concluded it was most likely a specific type of avalanche. Most experts remain unconvinced. The Dyatlov Pass incident is, to this day, one of the most baffling and disturbing unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. So, 3 stories, 3 mysteries, 3 moments in history where something happened that we cannot fully explain, and where the people who might have told us the truth are long gone. But here's what I keep coming back to. Why do we care so much? These events happened decades, centuries ago. The people involved are dead. The danger is over. So why can't we let them go? I think it comes down to a few things. The first is simply this. Our brains are pattern recognition machines. We are built, hardwired, to find explanations for things. When something happens that doesn't fit a pattern, that doesn't have a clean cause and effect, it itches at us. We can't just let it sit there unresolved. We need to know why, and when we can't know why, that discomfort never fully goes away. Second thing is fear, and specifically our complicated relationship with it. There's a reason horror movies exist, a reason we slow down at accident scenes even when we don't want to look. There's something in us that is drawn toward the darkness, toward the proof that terrible things happen, maybe as a way of processing the fact that they could happen to us too. These old mysteries let us feel that fear from a safe distance. Close, enough to be real, far enough away to be survivable, and then there's justice, or the absence of it. The Ripper's victims never got justice. The Roanoke colonists, if something terrible happened to them, never got justice. There's something deeply human about wanting that balance to be restored, about wanting someone to be held accountable. When they aren't, the story doesn't feel finished. So we keep telling it, over and over, hoping somehow that one more telling will finally give us the ending we need. These mysteries have fueled novels, films, podcasts, documentaries, entire academic careers. They live in our culture because we refuse to bury them, and I think that refusal says something important about us. Perhaps the most unsettling truth about all of this is that some of these questions will never be answered. Not because the answers don't exist, they do somewhere, but because history swallows things. People die, evidence disappears, files get sealed, and the world moves on, whether we're ready for it to or not. There are answers out there that no living person will ever know. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's even the point. History isn't a tidy list of dates and verified facts. It's messy and human and full of gaps. It's a tapestry, and the dark threads are just as much a part of it as the bright ones. A colony of 100 people, vanished without a trace. A killer who walked through Victorian London and was never found. 9 hikers who fled their tent in the middle of a frozen night for reasons we may never understand. These stories matter. These people mattered. And as long as we keep asking questions, they're not entirely gone. So, which of these got under your skin the most? Is there a historical mystery you've fallen down a rabbit hole on that you think deserves more attention? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories from the dark corners of history, you know what to do.